Today I'm going to be watching this video. It's called How Norway Produces Super Athletes. So I watched a video before that shows why Norway produces so many Winter Olympics champions and great winter athletes. But outside of that, Norway has a lot of great sports people. Like, obviously I'm a big football fan, so I know of Haaland, Ødegaard and players like that. I was watching the Olympics during the summer, seen that long distance runner, and I think his name's like Jakob Ingebrigtsen, something like that. I think he was doing the 5,000 metres and I think he won gold, if I'm right, but he was just very impressive. I was quite surprised because long distance, you usually find that's a lot of like African runners, and he was just very, very good. So a lot of success in sports for Norwegians at the moment and throughout history. Interested to learn more about it. Who's your favourite Norwegian athlete, sports person?
Country has the best athletes in the world. The US, China, or maybe France. Those countries usually top the medal table at the Olympics. Well, at least at the Summer Olympics. At the Winter Olympics, it's the tiny country of Norway that dominates. But it's not just snow and ice. They have 4 of the best footballers in the world. Haaland and Ødegaard in the men's, Hegerberg and Hansen in the women's game. There's Kasper Ruud in tennis, Victor Hovland in golf, Magnus Carlsen in chess. There are Vikings winning over the hurdles. They are even beating the Kenyans in long-distance events. Triathlon, weightlifting, cycling, heck, they are even winning in beach volleyball. Per capita, Norway is the most successful sporting nation in the world.
Whoa.
But why is that? The more you delve into the Norwegian success formula, the more interesting it becomes. It's a story about money, mind-blowing science, and a unique culture. Welcome to Athletic Interest and how tiny Norway produces the best athletes in the world.
Okay, man, interested to see this. Before we watch it, tell me what you think is the biggest factor in this. I didn't realise there were so many different sports. It's like across a wide range of different sports, so that makes it even more impressive. And when you look at the Norwegian population to produce so many of these people, it's really amazing. What do you think is the biggest factor in your opinion?
The natural reflex is to point out that Norway is super rich and has a lot of resources to put into its sporting infrastructure. But that explains nothing on its own. Ireland has a similar population and GDP, but how many great Irish athletes can you name right now? Besides, Norway has been wealthy for decades, but for most of the time they only had world-class skiers and maybe here and there a player who made it to the Premier League. Today they are everywhere. We are not saying that money isn't a factor. Norway's state fund holds over $1.7 trillion in assets. That's more than 300,000 per Norwegian citizen. The government uses a small portion of the fund's annual returns to support Norway's budget, funding public services like education, healthcare and infrastructure, while preserving the bulk of the wealth for future generations. This allows Norway to have better infrastructure, better coaches, better equipment. So, obviously, money is not the issue. But it's also not the sole reason for all the medals. In 2018, Norway made it to the top of the Olympics medal table with only a tenth of the budget of the British. Maybe they're just spending it wiser. Norway doesn't even invest in sports like skeleton or bobsleigh, as Britain or Germany do, because they say those cost too much money. So if money is not the answer, what is it that makes Norway so successful? It's a paradox. Norway is a very rich country, but they believe in the socialist way of doing things. Success should come from working hard and being together. Families don't need to chase athletic scholarships because college, like healthcare for youth, is free. Sports is not seen as a way out of a tough neighborhood. 93% of children grow up playing organized sports. Organized usually means in a local sports club.
And again, when you compare it to somewhere like Germany, I would have thought Germany was higher, but that's a huge disparity there. Only half the kids in Germany. And again, like, for the betterment of the country as a whole, this is so important because playing sports, whether you make it successfully as a professional or not, has so much benefits to like your personality, to your working in a team, all these different things you learn from sport are so important when you go into like the working world, your career, even just the education itself, your intelligence. It's like so important. It's an amazing thing. Tell me like what sports you played then. I guess people watching this from Norway probably played some sort of sport. What did you play? How was it?
There are more than 11,000 of those in Norway. This also means that there are a lot of coaches. Most parents work 8 hours a day and are happy to spend their free time with their kids, to volunteer as a coach. That's not possible if you're working 16-hour shifts. The philosophy is a little bit like planning a successful YouTube video. You need a high click rate and retention. So the idea is to get as many kids as possible into sports and keep them playing for as long as possible. The head of elite sports in Norway puts it like this: big nations are all about selection, getting rid of people. Norway allows children who are late developers or whose parents could not support them time to find their potential.
Such an amazing mentality, and that's something you definitely don't see in a lot of other countries like the UK, like the US. It's that kind of hits home, the one about getting rid of people. It so is, like when kids are playing football, they're like, they don't let them play if they're too small or whatever, too slow. It's like this one about letting late developers, helping people who are in different situations all try and develop. Every child develops at different speeds and so on. So fantastic that that's actually a main part of the mantra for Norwegian sport.
This means that despite its relatively small population, the talent pool is huge, because basically everyone is doing sports. It may sound like a small detail, but it's much more than that, because of the so-called relative age effect. There is a great video by Memeable Data that deep dives just into this. We'll link it in the description. For our story, we'll focus on what this means for sports. These are all players in the Spanish First Division, grouped by month of birth. As you can see, there are significantly more players born in the first half of the year. That's not a coincidence. In most sports, children are grouped based on their year of birth. So let's say you are born December 31st, 2008, and your best friend is born January the 1st, the same year. Your friend is almost 1 year older than you, but you are still competing against each other. On average, children born earlier in the year are taller, stronger, and faster. Therefore, an older child will have a higher chance of being selected by the coach to play. Being selected to play means the child gets more experience, becomes better, and ends up with higher chances of becoming a professional athlete later on. The older player is picked because he is better, and then ends up becoming better with time because he was picked, apparently validating the early decision of the coach. Small advantages at an early stage become bigger advantages later on. Countries like the US or China with a high population don't care. They can simply drag millions of kids through their sports system, and some of them will get through. But if you are a small country like Norway, you need to make sure that you do not waste a single talent simply because they were born late in the year. Norway's success in sports isn't just about talent, it's about smart systems and innovation. Speaking of innovation from Norway, this brings us to today's video partner, Opera. Opera won.
Yeah, it's interesting that as well, because I guess that actually goes to education as well. When you look at the months that children are born in and who does better in school, I guess that would probably be reflective in that as well. And like thinking about this as well, about the amount of children that do play sports, that over 90%, has the benefits for like the health, long-term health benefits as well, where it's going to be a higher percentage of people in Norway who are generally healthy, fitter. When you look at things like healthcare and all that sort of thing, there won't be such a strain on the system there, I would imagine. Like, it really makes sense. Like, I would like to know what that percentage is for the UK as well. See so many kids not involved these days, a lot of obesity and things like that. I'm really impressed with that.
So how does Norway get almost all their kids to do sports? For comparison, in the US, only a little more than half of the kids are doing sports.
Yeah, so again, similar to Germany, I would imagine it's probably similar in the UK as well. Like my son, he's 5, he already plays football. My daughter, she's 2, and we'll be getting her involved in something when she turns about 3. So like for me, sports are so important. I played sports when I was younger. Again, you get so many benefits from it. So this is what I want to know, man, how Norway does it.
Norway's success is the result of a plan called Children's Rights in Sport, adopted by the National Olympic Committee in 2007. It is a document unlike any other in the world. On 8 pages, it describes the type of experience that every child in Norway must be provided. The vision of idrettsglede, which literally means the joy of sport. The document is about safety, friendship, but also the freedom to choose. Children may decide for themselves how much they would like to train, and can even opt out of games if they just want to practice. Want to transfer clubs in mid-season? Go ahead, no penalty. Teams are not even allowed to keep score until kids are 11. That means no targets or league tables. Coaches are forbidden from telling young athletes how much they weigh to not induce eating disorders. Competition is promoted, but not at the expense of development and the joy of sport for all. Because Norway believes the motivation of children in sport is much more important than that of the parent or coach.
Again, man, this all just makes perfect sense. You think, like, why is this not applying in every country? Like, you see so many other countries where there's so much pressure on children to be successful or to be good, and you see a lot of parents who go over the top in that as well. But this is like, makes so much sense.
Violate the rules, and the federation or club risks losing access to government grants. Children are also not pushed to specialize in a single sport too early. Erling Haaland grew up running, skiing, and playing handball. The idea is to leave the kids alone, because they learn a lot from playing, from not being anxious, from not being counted, from not being judged, and they tend to stay on for longer. And also at a later age, the joy of sports is reinforced. There even is a strict no idiots rule, as the skier Ketil Jansrud explained in 2018. We believe there is no good explanation for why you have to be a jerk to be a good athlete. We just won't have that kind of thing on our team. Okay, so everyone is doing sports and there are no idiots. But what happens next? If an athlete is good, they are brought to Olympiatoppen, the Norwegian elite sports center. This is where Norway's sports machine goes into overdrive. Located in Oslo, Olympiatoppen combines cutting-edge sports science with Norway's unique philosophy. Every Olympiatoppen athlete gets a personalized team. Coaches, physiotherapists, nutritionists, and mental performance experts. And if there's one thing that sets Norwegian athletes apart, it's their obsession with data. They don't just train hard, they train smart, especially when it comes to endurance sports. A lot of this can be traced back to a runner named Marius Bakken. Bakken was fast and curious. Over his career, he conducted more than 5,000 lactate tests on himself to measure the intensity of his training. He even traveled to Kenya to test elite runners, searching for the perfect formula. What he discovered was groundbreaking. Most athletes were training too hard during their intervals. Bakken found a sweet spot just below the lactate threshold. Staying in this zone allowed him to train more without overtraining or risking injury. This principle became the foundation of what's now called the Norwegian training method.
No, I've never heard of that before. Tell me if that's common knowledge. So detailed, like, to find this out. I wonder how this applies to different sports and that sort of thing, and how commonly this is used in different sports as well.
Bakken laid the groundwork, but it was the Ingebrigtsen brothers who took his ideas and ran with them, and turned theory into world-class results. Today, they monitor every step, every heartbeat, and every drop of sweat. And you can find a lot of those details online. Their training methods aren't hidden away. They are openly discussed, analyzed, and sometimes emulated by athletes around the world. That's also typical Norway, a culture of sharing knowledge. Instead of keeping secrets, they believe that collaboration makes everyone better.
It does.
So, while other countries might focus on raw talent or massive budgets, Norway proves that curiosity, data, and teamwork can take a small nation to the top of the world. But let's get real. How much of these fancy-sounding strategies actually produce medals? And how much is just a story made up later to make the officials look good? The head of elite sports admits it himself. There's always something unpredictable about record-breaking talent. Some special, unrepeatable blend of inner drive and external influence that sets an athlete on the path to greatness. But he argues that Norway has created the right conditions for that thunderclap to strike. And maybe this isn't just about medals. Norway's methods are redefining how we think about talent, teamwork, and what it takes to excel in a competitive world.
That's like such a good video, man. So interesting. Like, I wonder if Norwegian people, or if you're in Norway, tell me how much you know about that or how much you've thought about that before. But it makes complete sense. Just not putting a lot of pressure on children and letting them enjoy the sport, different sports as well. See what they actually enjoy doing. Doing multiple sports has so many benefits for each sport as well. You're learning different things. That's excellent, yeah. So the scientific part of it, yeah, I'm definitely need to go find out. I didn't know that was the reason for Ingebrigtsen's success, like that it was so scientific and so detailed. So I need to find out more about that as well. But tell me what you think about that. Thanks.